This is a sort of a postscript to the recent information that Hiram and I provided with you on the subject of can we cause change in God. I'd ran across this article and I'd almost forgotten about it. But this is an article that was written by Rabbi Chait of Far Rockaway, New York. He is the Rosh of the yeshiva there. I think the name of it is B'nai Yisrael, or B'nai Torah, I'm sorry. And this article deals with the same subject that that Hiram and I have been dealing with on the video. And so, as a postscript to the recent information that we provided on this subject of can we cause any change in God, I would like to read this article. And again, this is by Rabbi Chait of Far Rockaway, New York. The title of the article is, Can We Affect God? He says, why should we worship God? Does God need our worship? Does it give Him satisfaction? Are we benefiting Him in any way? Or does God not need our service and does not care whether or not we worship Him? For most religious people, the answers to the above questions comprise the most patent aspects of their religious motivation. Yet, when these questions are presented squarely to a religious person, the answers are often garbled, unclear, and even self-contradictory. In other words, religious people have strong feelings about the answers to these questions, but not very strong ideas. For the Torah-loving person, such a state of mind is not tolerable. Know the God of your fathers and serve Him. 1 Chronicles 28 and verse 9. King David instructed Solomon before he departed from this world. The rabbis underscore this statement, know Him first, then serve Him. See Rabbi in his commentary on Hosea chapter 6 and verse 3. It is not proper to serve God without a clear understanding of the what and the why of this service. To demonstrate the difficulty in which these questions lead us, let us take the first one. Does God care if we do or do not worship Him? If we say He does not care, then we are maintaining that God is subject to different states of existence. He is, so to speak, happier under certain conditions, that is, when we worship Him, and less happy under other conditions, that is, when we do not or refuse to worship Him. We are also maintaining that we can affect God, that is, we human beings are capable of affecting the Creator, which seems a bit egocentric, if not preposterous. And on the other hand, if we maintain God does not care if we do not serve Him, our service then seems meaningless and God appears to us as being indifferent to man. This latter view reminds us of the view of those who deny God's omniscience and His relationship with man. They say God has abandoned the earth. Ezekiel chapter 8, verse 12, also Ezekiel chapter 9 and verse 9. It seems either view we take leads to some untenable position. Most religious people, therefore, have either removed this question to the far recesses of their mind or believe implicitly that God is more pleased when we worship Him. What can I do for God today? We hear people say, as if God needs their help. Is it any wonder that we often encounter religious people of great arrogance? What can be more ego-boosting than to believe that God is waiting each morning for one's service to Him, or to think that one can affect the Creator of the universe? Most non-religious people would be happy if they could affect a few human beings. What does Torah have to say about this? Let us turn to the 13th principle of our faith. The 4th principle states that God is not physical. By this we mean God is not comparable to any created being, animate or inanimate. This is stated by Isaiah in chapter 40 verse 18 and also in verse 25. And to whom can you liken me, saith the Holy One? The created world is subject to change. A rock decays, plants grow, matter is converted into energy, and vice versa. Man changes. We can go from poor health to good health, from sadness to happiness, from evil to good, and vice versa. God, being most perfect, is not subject to change, as the prophet states, I, God, do not change. That's Malachi chapter 3 and verse 6. As Rambam states in the Yad, and the Yad is just a reference, by the way, to the Rambam's writing of the Mishnah Torah. This is in laws concerning the fundamentals of our faith. It's in Hilakot Yesod HaTorah, chapter 1 and law number 11. And he does not change, for there is nothing that can cause change in him. There does not exist in him anger or laughter, happiness or sadness. God is not improved, happier, in a better state of being if we serve him, or in a worse state if we do not serve him. Our God is awesome, and we cannot affect him in any way whatever. Whether we are evil or righteous, religious or atheistic, God remains unaffected. He, the Supreme Being, is not in need of anything, including our worship of him. Why do we worship God? Because in doing so, we fulfill the divine potential God has endowed us with. The worship of God through Torah brings into realization the highest element of our nature and gives us true existence and fulfillment. Is God indifferent to our worship? It depends upon how we mean this. If by indifferent we mean that God gains nothing from our worship, the answer is yes. If by indifferent we mean that God is not concerned about concerned about us, the answer is no. God in his great mercy has given us the potential to perceive to some degree his knowledge and his truth. In other words, this awesome God, who gains nothing from our worship, nevertheless shows us mercy and kindness in giving us the ability to obtain the greatest good for ourselves, perfection. God is the only true benefactor. His goodness does not stem from any possibility of gain, but from his very essence. As followers of Torah, we are not permitted to be motivated to worship by the false notion that we are helping God. While this notion may be emotionally satisfying and motivating, it belongs to the class of the idolaters who attempt to make God in man's image. As Isaiah states in a vivid description of idolatry, and he makes it in the likeness of man, and the glory of man to dwell in his house. Idolaters are moved by powerful emotions, but we are motivated by the awesomeness of the one true God. Again, this is kind of postscript to the information that Hiram and I provided earlier when this teaching on can we affect any change in God whatsoever. And the real question for most of us is, and I think Rabbi Chait answered this question very well, what if we know that God is not affected in one way or other in our service or our worship to him? Will we continue? The greatest motivation for continuing is for our own potential to be realized. The divine potential that God has put in every human being, and that is working toward, and always working toward, the idea of perfection. May God bless you, and may God always cause us to understand that the best way our service can be connected to him is to have true, really true concepts and ideas of him, and that our service for him is really for our benefit. So I hope that this teaching will motivate you to serve him and to worship him, because it is the best thing for you and it's the best thing for those people around you. Thank you, and I hope that you will be enlightened by these series of videos and by this series of teaching that we felt was very important as B'nai Noah, because our prohibition against idolatry leads us to the conclusion that we must truly know our Creator as the best of our ability and to the best of our God-given ability, so that we may serve him and worship him correctly. Thank you, and again, may God bless you.